What up, all my tech mexers out there in the ether? Well, Rings of Power is finally over, and just this last Monday, I finally published my final video in the series, the Lord of the Memes, the Rings of Power is Devoid of Logic. Those videos, I really loved making those, but they took up a whole lot of my time. And now that it's finally over, I have time to breathe. And so now I'm getting around to making some of the more deep dive, single topic focused videos that I've been wanting to do for a while, and I just haven't. I haven't had any time. I haven't had any time to do it. So in this video, we're going to talk about volcanoes, baby, and how little Amazon knows about geology and rocks and stuff. That's right. We're talking about the volcano scene at the end of episode 6, the one where you were probably scratching your head, really confused because it didn't make a whole lot of sense. Let's break it down, everybody. Here we go.
Oh, he's technically Mexican, 3/4 American, but for 3 generations he's got that nationality. Great-great-grandpa headed south, whose kids had kids then turned around. It's not what the show's about, but it's why he's Mexican technically.
It helps that he was raised in New Mexico, lived in Guadalajara for 2 years, speaks fluent Spanish with a bachelor's degree in language and examine taquito.
As you can see, I also made a nice little border because I was not happy with the quality of the last 2 videos. So I think it looks pretty cool. Anyway, volcanoes, and also spoilers, I guess. But we're going to talk about that horrible volcano scene. So how it goes in the show is that the bad guys spent the whole season digging a tunnel from the tower to like the base of the volcano, and then they took the key and they opened up. They used the key to open up a little dam, and then the water from the dam, it went into the tunnels. Well, it fell down the cliff first. Then after it fell down the cliff, so you can, it cut away. Hold on a second. So the water from the tunnel. Holy crap! There's a lot about horses. Why are there so many horses? I don't care. Okay, so back to the tunnels. All right. So the water from the dam went through the tunnels, and then the tunnels met up with the big trench that they built, and then the trench led to the base of Mount Doom, and somehow the water traveled uphill to get to the mountain, and then it went into the volcano, and the water touched the magma, you see, which immediately vaporized into steam, which then for some reason turned into a giant explosion, making the volcano erupt. Okay, we're following, right? And then, people died, but not any of the important people. So we had all that stuff and all that jazz, and then there was a big, it caused an eruption so big that it has its own internal weather system with lightning for reasons, and magma and comet, meteors, whatever. I don't know what it's called when it comes from a volcano, and ash, and it was so dangerous that Galadriel didn't even try to run from it, and that's how the episode ended. So some of you may be scratching your heads and thinking, "Oh, gee, I'm not really sure that's how volcanoes work," and you'd be correct. But see, the thing is, so Amazon knew you'd probably be a little bit confused there, so they reached out to the news or Hollywood Reporter, and they wrote an article explaining how the volcano science works. So we're gonna talk about volcano science and see if it checks out. Okay. So here's their argument. They said that the Rings of Power showrunners, and a geologist, they explained that Mount Doom surprise. And their contention is, yeah, you big dumb stupid. Water can totally make a volcano erupt. It's real, we checked. The Rings of Power showrunners and a geologist break down episode 6's Mount Doom twist, which was based on more science than you probably thought. Okay, so let's see what it says. Okay. So the sixth episode, had a Mount Doom, and there was a sword, and the stream fell into the bowels of an active volcano. Well, if the volcano was active, why did you need to set it off? Okay. So the mountain's subsequent eruption, as the water struck the underground lava, was like a nuclear bomb. Yeah, that's what it showed on screen. And it turned the Southlands into Mordor, everybody. Whoa, what a twist. So the show, they could have done it with magic, which would have, made sense. But they wanted to use real nature world. So the showrunners, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, they made a twist they thought about it real hard. We promise. And they wanted to use J.R.R. Tolkien's like biggest recurring themes of nature, because Tolkien was an environmentalist and he didn't like machines and industrialization and crap, and so we wanted nature to be the bad guy of the show. Yeah, that tracks. So Mordor used to be beautiful, and then they made it was a big surprise. It was so surprising, guys. It's so freaking cool. But Hollywood reporters now asking the hard-hitting questions, everybody. But could diverted water have caused Mount Doom to explode like in the episode? So the showrunners don't actually explain the science because they can't. But let's ask a geologist about it, okay? So is it possible that water can make an eruption? Yeah, it is true. The problem is they don't give all of the information to this geologist, who clearly has not watched the episode, because he's just saying like, yeah, technically it can happen, but definitely not in the way the show depicted it, which is the only reason they're able to write this article, okay? So he concedes, yeah, if there was a river that poured into the base of a volcano and mixed with the magma, and there wasn't a way for the resulting steam to exit. Now this isn't his words, this is the editorial. Like, say, if the incoming water was blocking the hole the orcs had dug, then there could indeed be an explosion. So let's go back and see if that's the case. Spoiler alert, it's not. Now, does it look to you like the water is blocking this giant opening through which you can see the sunlight, or that maybe possibly there's anywhere else for this steam to escape within this giant empty cavern? No. So already the article is completely worthless. But let's debunk it even more, because here it shows the hole right down here, okay? And so the water is going down here, not even close to the volcano, so the tunnel must go a lot further, way down to the magma chamber, and then it's not blocking anything. There should be plenty of room for the steam to escape. I don't know, maybe through the top of the volcano, right? So let's continue. If there wasn't a way for the steam to exit, there could indeed be an explosion. Well, we've seen two places the steam could exit. Violent volcanic eruptions occur in large part because water is involved. Yeah, and this is true. We'll get into this later. The water is dissolved into the magma. The magma rises to the surface. The water bubbles can then turn into steam, and the steam and water expand so rapidly they basically blow the magma apart, and that stuff piles up near a central vent, and that's what makes big volcanoes. Okay. And then the next line even debunks it even further. That said, the resulting blowup is more likely to be an explosion of steam than a massive magma super vomit that would last centuries in Middle Earth, which is what they're trying to show. So we're wrong again. That is not steam. That is magma. Okay? Let's keep going. If that water is in a confined area like a bottleneck, that will come up later, there's going to be a steam eruption. We call it a phreatomagmatic eruption. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. We see that happening in Hawaii all the time, where lava flows into the ocean, and some of the lava can get blown apart if the water gets trapped under it, which is a very different scenario than what is shown in Rings of Power. And to go even further, the professor started asking questions about the scenario, saying, yeah, it doesn't sound like it would happen that way. First off, they wouldn't even be able to dig a chamber that close to the magma, but for spoiler reasons, they couldn't give him the details, and the geology professor clearly didn't watch the show himself. But the showrunners really think you're going to like the explosion because it looks really cool, and maybe some people die. Look, now, granted, the CGI does look incredible. This is like one of the only good CGI shots in the entire show. It's pretty freaking cool. This one right here looks pretty cool, okay? It's a good shot. That doesn't mean that it makes sense. But what's more egregious is that their evidence for refuting people saying, hey, that's not how volcanoes work, is literally just this article. And if you actually go into the details of the article, it directly contradicts the title of the article. After this article was released, I saw tons of copycat articles saying, yeah, it's true that volcanoes can do that. And every single article referenced this article. So this is their only proof that this is how volcanoes work. And what's more egregious is, look at the date. This article came out on September 29th at 10:30 p.m. When did episode 6 air, you ask? Good question. The next day, September 30th. Oopsie! Oopsie doopsie! They accidentally released the article a day early. So what does that tell you guys? Amazon knew that there was a problem. Someone in the company who probably wasn't previously involved in the production got to see the episode and actually started using his brain and asking questions saying, hey, is that how volcanoes actually work? And then people started realizing that J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay are morons, and so they had to cover their butts. So they paid the Hollywood Reporter to pay a geologist to lie and say, yeah, volcanoes can totally do that. And then they accidentally released the article a day early, which is horrible. If nothing sinister was going on, this is how the events should have happened. Everyone watched the episodes. Some people started questioning, hey, can that really happen? Then they reach out to a geologist, and the geologist says, yes, it can really happen. And then the article is released maybe a day or two later. This is proof that Amazon wanted to preemptively cut off this line of attack, so they would be able to call anyone who questioned the episode a stupid, dumb idiot. I don't know about you, but I think that might be patently evil. And what's so dumb about it is it makes the showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay look so stupid, which they are. They are morons. But the problem is they think that they are so smart. They were so proud of the fact that they came up with a natural solution for the eruption of Mount Doom that they rushed this to print, and they didn't even bother to finish reading the Wikipedia article that talked about how water can cause an eruption. So, let's do the work that they should have done. I've been studying about volcanic eruptions, and yes, I'm using Wikipedia, which isn't a great source, but it is the least amount of work that they could have done, and J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay couldn't even muster the willpower to do that. So we're going to use Wikipedia, and I don't care. There are 3 types of volcanic eruptions. You've got magmatic eruptions, phreatic eruptions, and phreatomagmatic eruptions. Again, I really hope I'm saying those correctly. Let's look at the first type, magmatic eruptions. The first type, magmatic eruptions, that's the kind that everyone knows about. You get a volcano and you get magma, and if there gets too much magma, the magma goes out the top, okay? It's pretty simple. Now, when you get an eruption, it's because the top layer of the magma gets cold and solidifies, and then pressure builds up underneath it, and when you get so much pressure, the cap of hardened lava rock gets blown off the top, and the magma goes shooting out, and that's when you get an eruption. When there's no pressurized cap, sometimes you'll just see magma oozing out of the top of a volcano, okay? So this is clearly not the type of eruption that we're talking about here, so let's move on. And then we got phreatic eruptions, or phreatic, I don't know. I don't friggin' know, guys, okay? You got phreatic eruptions, and these are a special type of eruptions because water is involved, that the water causes the eruption. Look, so what happens here, guys, is you have magma here down at the bottom, but there's a water table also down there at the bottom, and when water seeps in and touches the magma, it gets really hot really fast and turns into steam. And guess what? The steam shoots up out of the top of the volcano. So that kind of sounds like what happened in Rings of Power, except that it's completely different, because with phreatic eruptions, no magma is involved. It's literally just steam venting out the top of the volcano, and it doesn't cause like a huge explosion. That will end up looking something like this. Just a bunch of steam coming out the top. No magma. So that can't be it, so we gotta move on. The third class of eruption is the phreatomagmatic or phreatomagmatic eruption. Now, this type of eruption is the closest parallel that I could find to what was depicted in the Rings of Power. There are a couple different categories of phreatomagmatic eruptions, though. The first one, a Surtsian eruption, doesn't really apply because that usually happens when the volcano is underwater. But you get a similar thing happening here where the water interacts with the magma and it makes a big kablooey, and in this case, magma does shoot out the top. But that's if it's like in a lake, and it'll end up looking something like this, which is clearly not what's happening in the Rings of Power. The only possible comparison could be a very niche subcategory of phreatomagmatic eruptions that would end up looking something like this. This is the closest thing that I could find that is in any way comparable to the eruption that we got in Rings of Power. But even this one is completely different and it wouldn't have happened, guys, okay? And this specific type of ferromagmatic explosion usually ends up looking something like this. It's one teeny big spurt of explosion with which magma, but it's not like a giant thing like they showed in the show. The show was clearly trying to show the devastating effects of a magmatic eruption, but they're so stupid they don't know how to make one. So this last type of eruption can only occur if the chamber is extremely narrow. So you get magma that rises up to the top, and then as it cools, it comes back down to the bottom and forms hardened lava rock with some holes in it, okay? And then the pressure underneath it starts building up, and you get more magma. And then when water from the sides gets introduced into the lava rock, it goes into the little holes and then gets so hot that it vaporizes, turns to steam, and consequently blows apart the lava rock, essentially popping the cap off the soda bottle, and all the pressure that had been building up underneath it shoots out the top, and then you get flaming magma comets and magma and smoke and steam, and that's kind of like what you see in Rings of Power, except for the fact that they clearly show you in Rings of Power there is no pressure in this volcano. Look at this. The water goes in and just falls into this empty crevasse, and there's not even a hardened magma cap. So it's physically impossible for there to be any pressure underneath this magma. You can see the magma is just sitting there, dudes. So if the water touched the magma here, yes, it would instantly vaporize and turn into steam. You'd probably get some steam coming out the top of Mount Doom, but you definitely would not get a volcanic eruption. In fact, what would likely happen in this scenario is the water would pour down, vaporize into steam, and as water from the dam keeps getting introduced into the bottom of this volcano, steam will escape the top, but when it's over, the water will have likely capped off the bottom of the volcano, essentially sealing it for another 100 or even thousands of years. So not only is this really freaking stupid and never would have happened, the most likely outcome to this scenario that they showed us in Rings of Power is that Mount Doom would go dormant for hundreds of years, and none of this bullcrap would have happened in the show. But don't trust your lying eyes. If you were scratching your head at the end of this episode, it's because you're the stupid. Amazon thinks that you are a moron. They clearly never even finished reading their Wikipedia articles, and they really thought that they had something super clever here. It just shows the showrunners have a fundamental lack of understanding of anything in the real world, and they don't care to understand. They probably briefly Googled, hey, how do volcanoes erupt, and read one line where it said, hey, water can make a volcano go boom, and then stopped reading the Wikipedia article, because what they showed in the show is not how that works. And this doesn't even go into how every single person in this village should have been instantly vaporized and petrified like what happened in Pompeii. Every single person should be dead. There should be no survivors. They even show you in the next episode that there are horses running around on fire because of the heat, and yet Galadriel's hair remains perfectly intact. The show is stupid, it's dumb, the show thinks that you're stupid and dumb, but you're not. You're smart because you're watching this video, and if you liked it, please give it a like and a subscribe, maybe share it with your friends, and say a prayer for me because the show is making me literally go insane. So that's all I have for this episode. In the next episode I have planned, I'm going to be talking about how Amazon and the Rings of Power don't even understand basic geography, which is ironic for a shipping logistics company. You would think they would know, I don't know, something about maps. But I digress. So you give a comment and a like and subscribe and all that jazz, and that's it. Bye. I'm done. I'm gonna go to bed now.